48 hours after a father confesses to murdering his 3 sons, we are hearing from Chad Doerman's father tonight. A judge set Chad Doerman's bond at $20 million, which is the highest bond ever set by prosecutors. Chad's father, Keith, spoke to me on the phone tonight, who says he is angry at his son, but at the same time is defending his son's character and feels something bad happened to him.
They won't let you talk to your son?
Keith Doerman, now living in Florida, said he came back to Ohio Thursday night after he found out what happened that day on Laurel Lindale Road in Monroe Township, but said he's not allowed to talk to his son. Chad Doerman confessed to shooting and killing his 3 sons execution style. Chad's father tells us this is completely out of character for Chad, saying his son isn't violent. I don't know what went on in his personal life. It's a shocker to us we didn't see it coming. He just snapped. I could tell in his eyes he's hollow inside. That wasn't Chad standing at the arraignment. I mean, that was not him. Contrary to what the elder Doermans said, this is what Assistant Clermont County Prosecutor David Gass said in court Friday.
We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses.
On Friday, we found out prosecutors charged Chad Doerman with domestic violence in 2010 for allegedly choking his father, but authorities dropped the charge. Keith Doerman told me he can't figure out why his son would have done this. A lot of stuff out there that could make you flip, and I don't think there's enough research on that, alluding to the possibility his son Chad could be suffering from mental illness, but also said, I don't know if it was financial, I don't know if it was marital, I don't know if it's work-related, I don't know. Keith defended his son, saying he was a good kid and a good father, but said, I don't want nobody to badmouth him because this is a terrible thing he did, and I'm angry at him for it, but there's something deeper inside, that's all it is.
Tonight, support pouring in for the survivors left behind, the boy's mother and older sister. The father, Chad Doerman, facing a judge today after being charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder. In court, prosecutors calling the act monstrous and cowardly. They say Doerman confessed to planning the killings for several months. Clermont County Police releasing new body cam tonight, showing the intense moments when they arrived on scene and placed the father under arrest. And tonight we've gotten a clearer picture about what happened in Monroe Township. Good evening and thank you for joining us at 10. I'm Chris Jacobs. The details both heartbreaking and disturbing. What we've learned includes the gruesome details about the killings, the suspect's arrest, and his calm demeanor when he was put in handcuffs.
You show me your hands now! Stand up and walk to me!
That was the first contact made with Chad Doerman, now charged with the murder of his 3 sons, ages 3, 4, and 7.
Stand up now!
You can see a rifle next to him. Moments later, the father is taken into custody without a struggle.
Stand up! Stand up!
EMS is safe and air care is going to go ahead and fly whenever any unit's going to die.
Get your hands out here.
A few seconds later in the video, you can hear one of the deputies asking Doerman what was going on. He responds calmly, saying nothing. The children's bodies laying just feet away in the front yard.
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you.
Today in court, Doerman was wearing a bulletproof vest, the prosecutor not holding back in his comments about the suspect.
The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable.
David Gass, the chief prosecutor, calling the actions monstrous, evil, and cowardly.
He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood.
The prosecution says Doerman lined up the 3 children and shot them, execution style. One boy even managed to get away before Doerman caught him, killing him too. The mother forced to watch it all.
To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the events of this day.
As 3 young lives ended early, a second painful process begins in court. Well, the defense asked for a $75,000 bond, saying Doerman was employed and had co-signers. Prosecutors, though, asked for the highest bond they've ever asked a judge to give, $20 million. The judge granted that. The prosecution says their office is reviewing all possible charges. A preliminary hearing is set for June 26th.
A Clermont County neighborhood still trying to come to grips with the unthinkable after 3 little boys were killed. They were just 3, 4, and 7 years old. Their own father is accused of executing them. Prosecutors say Chad Doerman lined up his 3 children and shot them. Prosecutors asked for the highest bond they've ever requested from a judge, $20 million, a request the judge granted.
The children's mother and older sister survived, and tonight the community in Monroe Township working through their grief, hoping to honor the lives of the children killed and lift up the survivors. Good evening and thanks for joining us at 11. I'm Lindsay Stone.
And I'm Curtis Fuller. We're told these children were talented athletes and just loved baseball. Tonight, athletes in Monroe Township are remembering them. WLWT News 5's Rachel Hersheimer spoke with their coaches, who, as you can imagine, are still in shock. Rachel?
The Doerman boys played their last baseball game on Wednesday night, and their coaches tell us it's hard to believe that was their final time running around the bases. It all starts on the diamond.
You can't help but think of all the memories you had.
This 7-year-old was so full of life.
Brandon Allen coached the Doermans 4-year-old in T-ball.
They're more than teammates and they're more than friends. Like, you start to become more of a little family.
Dwayne Kuhn saw the pitcher in this 7-year-old as his baseball coach.
He was feisty, and when he's at bat, he's feisty, and I could see him on the mound just being a feisty little left-hander.
On Thursday, the unthinkable happened. These brothers, 3, 4, and 7, were shot and killed. Their father, Chad Doerman, has been charged for their murders, a shock to these teams.
Just so tragic, you know, how things were cut short. Because I think the sky was the limit. You know, he was really gifted for a 4-year-old.
The day before the shooting, the whole family was at the field. Kristen Bennett, who runs the league, interacted with the children's dad.
He was telling the boys, get in their car seats, be safe. You would have not thought anything. Just normal, typical conversations with another family on the ball field.
As coaches, they guide players and help strategize. This one is too much to bear.
They were quintessential boys. They were good boys. They loved playing ball. Just everything you would want in a little guy that you're coaching.
The New Richmond Youth Sports Association is now accepting donations for the mother and the daughter to help them cope with the mental toll that this will take on them.
Yeah, Ashley, here in Monroe Township and neighboring New Richmond, the feeling, the sense the last 24 hours has been very heavy. There have been people showing up in disbelief throughout the day, leaving balloons and teddy bears, flowers and crosses here at this growing memorial, all to honor those 3 young lives taken far too soon.
When you hear about a death of a child, it's almost like time stands still.
Even more so when a community is mourning 3. The grief is palpable at this growing memorial on Laurel Lindell Road, outside the home where 3, 4, and 7-year-old brothers were killed. Police say their father confessed to killing them. Neighbors stopped by throughout the day to honor the young lives.
When tragedy strikes, it's just, we feel each other's pain.
Becky Wooden's husband pastors Connection Point Church.
We just kind of said, let's just open our doors up and make it as informal but also comfortable enough where people will want to come and really just find some peace.
In tragedies like this, you cannot do it alone, and you need people.
Everyone is hurting here, many brought to tears.
We told the folks last night, you know, you want to go to bed at night and want to squeeze your kids extra hard.
Sarah Stapleton works at New Richmond Middle School. She says it's hard to find the words to support hurting students. Just a few months ago, they lost a middle schooler to similar domestic violence.
Sometimes they just want to talk and they don't really want advice. They just want you to listen and hug on them and love them and let them know that they are worthy.
This tragedy also hitting close. She knows the survivors.
I just think about the girl, the sister. I had her as a student 2 years ago. So I know her and I know her mom, and I just keep going back to her and what she was feeling.
They're leaning on each other and praying for peace.
That's where we cling to. We cling to hope and we cling to our faith and we cling to Christ.
And back out here live, you can see that growing memorial that several people added candles to tonight. You know, there are several fundraisers already taking shape. Community members, family, friends, businesses, all trying to help the mother and sister who survived this tragedy and are going to have a long road ahead. So we have verified 2 GoFundMe pages. If you'd like to give, if you feel led to, you can find them on WLWT.com. They've already raised more than $60,000 in less than 24 hours.
I'm shocked, to be honest with you. We moved here 6 years ago, and the place is great, and you know, New Richmond's coming up, and you just hate to see anything like this anywhere.
All of a sudden I hear boom, boom, and at like 5 more, I'm like, that's 7 shots. That's shots. Like, there's no way. So I was freaking out like this before I got ready and everything, and I don't know, man. Before that, I saw 2 cars right here on this street zoom as fast as humanly possible. It was like something's going down.
Mark Tekulve says he's been a prosecutor for 35 years, but this is a case he'll never forget.
I can only imagine that the terror that these little boys felt and experienced as their father, their protector, was murdering them. Unfortunately, the mother saw this. You can imagine that the immense trauma and terror that she experienced, and we will do our utmost within my office to see that this defendant never sees the light of day again.
We heard gunshots, and you would never think it was something like that.
They just should not be cut down like that. They should not. No father should ever even think about doing that to their children. It just leaves me somewhat speechless that someone can do that to their children.
When it involves children, that's terrible.
Neighbors like Dan Thomas are left awestruck by the news such violence shattered their rural community's usual calm. 18-year-old Seth Trees lives a couple houses down.
You see this massive police presence up here.
Yeah, it's weird. It's unheard of, you know, crazy.
And tell me what it's like around here.
It's quiet, you know, people mind their business.
Nothing like that ever happens out here. This is a quiet country and very nice area. So to hear this, it's terrible. If it gets to the point where you get that mad, I mean, walk away. Don't, in no way harm your spouse or your children. I mean, come on, just walk away. Don't hurt nobody.
I have children of my own, and I can't imagine doing something to my own children like that.
The memorial for the boys has grown throughout the day outside their home.
I could never imagine that in my life. If I didn't love my child, I'd give it to somebody that did.